Hello, I am Vladimir Shirogorov, historian, and author of the books War on the Eve of Nations, Conflicts and Militaries in Eastern Europe, 1450–1600, and Strategies of Ukrainian War, 1600–1800. The next large cycle of the historical studies on my channel is devoted to strategy. In the current world of plenty of everything, goods, services, information, power and war, the lack of strategy is striking. It's clear that the people who direct the flood of plenty are not attending strategy properly. They do not understand that strategy is the mighty leverage to make the things done. We have to study strategy to be the masters of our destiny. We start to study strategy learning two epochs, decisive in the humankind history. The first one is the early modern period, when the current states, societies, politics and economy were invented. And the second epoch of our attention is the 20th century that mighty corrected them. The strategies of current time are repeating the strategies of these two epochs, and the lack of strategy repeats their mistakes. We have to study strategy. We have to be the masters of our destiny, and we have to avoid the mistakes of the past. Strategy is a military term. From the military art, it was adopted by politics and business, and then penetrated all other areas of the humankind activity. However, adoption of strategy was not integrated. If you learn hundreds of textbooks on strategy that are available today, you find that the current strategy on politics and business lack the key component of military strategy, its enemy. Making of enemy, discerning enemy, and action against the enemy is the axis of military strategy. Unlike military strategy, the political strategy and business strategy that are imposed today lack the enemy. They look like a long-term thinking and acting to achieve some general objectives. This approach is fundamentally wrong. The enemy, discerning of enemy, and action against the enemy is the key component of strategy. It's the necessity to make it successful. Why is it? I will reveal in my next video. A brief example illustrates why recognition of enemy is vital for strategy. The Ukrainian Cossacks emerged on the southern outskirts of the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth at the end of the 15th century. The Polish nobility that possessed power and lands in the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth considered them being a group of mercenaries to defend their lands against the Crimean raiding and impose an order over the new colonized territories named Ukraine. However, the Cossacks from the very beginning designed to take over Ukraine, to capture the power and lands. Understanding of the Polish nobility as their principal enemy was handed out from one generation of Cossacks to another generation, and from one pack of the Cossacks' leaders to another pack. In every of their rebellions, the Cossacks killed and expelled the Polish nobles. Unlike the Cossacks, the Polish nobles did not understand them as being their organized enemy. They considered that it was some riffraff, the crowds of petty criminals who rebelled against them in Ukraine. The payoff for their myopia came in the 17th century, when the Polish nobility lost Ukraine and narrowly escaped with their commonwealth. Recognition of the enemy is vital for strategy, is the axis of strategy. Without recognition of the enemy, it's impossible to achieve any strategical objectives. Another example in the next video. Ivan the Terrible was a great Russian ruler, naturally gifted and highly educated. Disturbances of his youth taught him to discern his enemies and act against them decisively. He masterfully moved the focus of his strikes from the Kazan Khanate that became the main international rival of Muscovy to the Livonian Order, a lucrative objective that proposed the international prestige and gate to the Baltic. After conquering the Kazan Khanate and a half of the Livonian Order, Ivan the Terrible moved his attention against the Russian native aristocracy, his rivals over the absolute power. At the same time, he suppressed the Russian nobility, composed his army. The state of Ivan the Terrible sustained the coalition of the Ottoman Empire, the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, Sweden, and the Crimean Khanate. He gained the absolute power. However, Ivan the Terrible missed how on the outskirts of Russia the new social military group of the Soviet Cossacks emerged. He considered them being his mercenaries to counter the Crimean raiding. However, the Soviet Cossacks mastered the fashionable firearms and designed to take over the Russian state. After the death of Ivan the Terrible, they rebelled, advanced the impostors who claimed themselves being the heirs of Ivan the Terrible. They advanced on Moscow. And only the miracle saved Russia from the total collapse in the time of trouble. To discern the enemy, to act against the enemy, is the axis of strategy. And only this strategy could sustain the greatest feats in history. At the beginning of the 20th century, Russia was a great power with mighty army, strong economy, and consolidated society. It was the second dynamic country in the world, following the United States of America. Russia actively participated in the concert of the great powers that ruled the globe. Tsar Nicholas II and his advisors considered the international rivals being the main danger to Russia. They actively countered them. Russia clashed with England over Iran and Afghanistan. It clashed with Japan over Manchuria and entered the First World War against Germany, Austria, and the Ottoman Empire over the dominance in the Balkans, Central Europe, and the Transcaucasia. However, the Tsarist power did not discern the true enemy of the Russian Empire. It was the new destructive political groups that matured in the depths of Russian society. First of all, they were the nationalists who designed to take over Ukraine, the Baltics, and Transcaucasia. And they were the new groups of Marxists who promoted the class struggle of the proletariat in the industrial centers. They used the weakness of the Tsarist power in the third year of the First World War, rebelled and destroyed the Russian Empire. It is necessary to learn strategy to discern the true enemy and timely wage war against it, to save everything, to save the very existence. The next example from the current business is in the next video.